those who are looking for knowledge, the seekers of knowledge, if they read this book, they know A to Z of Bola Tinubu?
Yeah, to basically on his leadership skills. Because the book, we decided to take out everything, I mean everything about his private life. You will not see about his family, on this book. It's strictly about his public life. So those are some of the issues that we wrote about. How can you talk about leadership style about a man that they say charity begins at home and all those stuff? But we felt that, listen, his public life alone is enough to jar people towards him. So there are lots of debates about maybe having a chapter devoted to that, but of course we limit it because issue around his leadership alone is more than what we can condense into 200 pages.
Right.
Like we said, the chapters are even running to up to 20 initially. That we now, because when a book becomes so voluminous, you might tend to get self-weary, but we agree to that 14 chapters are real essence of what people need to read, and you understand everything A to Z of leadership style of this.
Okay, so that is why you also made allusion to what people said, especially after the APC primary, where they said, pending determination of whether Bola Tinubu's political ideals and successes be, introduced to the university curriculum or not. And, there are knowledge seekers, as well as the fans who would want to learn more about him. So, for instance, do you think, because some feel that it is quite an exaggeration to say it should be introduced to the university curriculum?
It's not. It's not an exaggeration.
Okay, talk to us. Why do you think this needs to be studied? That he himself, in fact, somebody said he himself needs to be studied.
So, sincerely, at times I sit down, or we talk, we meet minds, and like we said, the man is an enigma. There must be something that actually propel most of his ideals and his ideas and all those stuff. Of course, we can't conclusively talk about or finally psychoanalyze the old man, except probably we'll sleep and wake up with him. But there are some basic ideals and ideas of ease that I think a post-science student needs to understand. And you need some hands-on training. And you can only get such from a man like Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Because I've tried to look for his equal. I'm sorry, he's not as if one is trying to make him look above every other thing. But there is something unique around him, about his politics, about his...
I can see, even though you've written a book about him, you're still awed by his enigmatic,
Sure, no, sincerely.
Because we know that, we've actually read about Plato, we've read about Socrates and, Descartes, we read about Machiavelli, et cetera, et cetera. If we have to, understand the man, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and it's needed to be introduced to, political sciences, especially, the up-and-coming generation, are there some things that they need to put in mind in order to understand his person?
Basically, this is a man of many parts. In fact, I like to speak beyond politics, because leadership.
Yeah, because he himself is not even he didn't study politics.
Remember, I said initially, I describe him as a statesman rather than a politician.
As a politician.
Now, leadership is a question that has bedeviled Africa for a long time. And this man has been the forefront of this struggle of progressivism for a very long time. Now, when I say leadership, John C. Maxwell says leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership. So leadership, I believe that beyond political leadership, this man has, his virtues is applicable to all manner of leadership. It depends on the perspective you take it from. Because leadership is a question that cuts across board, from political to business, religion, everything. So most things, most virtues that this man has, if people can actually learn, really learn, take their time to learn from it, is going to really work and work for them really good.
So he's a fisher of men. Hardly would you find any of his men not deliver, but his critics, believe that governance is one thing, and governing Lagos is one thing, and governing Nigeria is another kettle of fish. He might have been able to, to have successfully governed Lagos State and then to what we talk about today. But I believe that he might not be able to replicate the same thing in Nigeria. What's your conviction?
Well, Lagos, let me start from this point. Lagos is a miniature Nigeria. That's the truth of the matter. Because you have Lagos, a melting point for all cultures and,
both locally and internationally.
Internationally. So if you look at, and beyond that, if you look at the person of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what validates a leader has been his, ideas over the years. And when you look at it, he has not just governed Lagos well, he has consistently produced leaders that has continued to take Lagos from one level to the other. And if you look at that, if you look at Nigeria as a an example, you will see that things like that is quite rare in Nigeria. To see a leader who has consistently produced other leaders, not just in politics, even in business, and across board. So I think this is a man who is ready, prepared for this job. Over time, we've seen in his colloquium all over the years, he has put out his ideas and is there for everybody to see. So over time, you've seen that he is well prepared. This has been a journey of 30 years, consistently and constantly. He has not changed. So I have no fear at all. And I know that a lot of Nigerians, that's why you can see the election. We can see that through his general acceptability in the country, So he's a man who is prepared for the job, and he's a man who will really do the job.
Right.
And maybe in addition to that, you also need, why I have that conviction that he's going to deliver what he did in Lagos, he might even surpass that. This is a man who...
Level, national scale.
Exactly. This is a man who thinks outside the box. And the man who actually understands how to put a round peg in a round hole. And we have seen the flashes of that. Even though people were complaining of tough, hardship, and all those stuffs, it's natural. Once you have those tendencies to think outside the box and spotting people who can help you deliver, invariably it will happen. And we are already seeing the flashes of that.
Right, because of our time, I want you to speak to this particular page 52, which talks about Bola Tinubu and justice. That's the second paragraph. It says, Tinubu passionately believes that access to justice should not carry forbidden price tags that will shut the door of the temple of justice on the faces of the common man. So justice counsels the immortal Edmund Burke, the great standing policy of civil society, and any eminent departure from it under its circumstances lies under the suspicion of being no policy at all. Bola Tinubu, justice, the common man. What is the, talk to us about the correlationship.
Let me say, I will only use the examples of what he did in Lagos in terms of in the area of justice and the rule of laws and all those stuff. He has shown examples of believing in justice and believing in the rule of law by not going through the rogue way, but following the path of justice to get a lot of things that he feels is not properly situated, and approach the judiciary to execute or to get those things firmly on how it should be. Asiwaju has consistently believed in that rule of law, believed in justice. All his actions and all his deeds has demonstrated that. That is what I can say briefly about that.
So you also you made mention of his ability to think outside the box, where you referred to the areas where, you said it was not exactly the wrong call Bola Tinubu made when he granted the right of people to have additional local government councils in their constituencies from the paltry 20 local governments to areas to 20 plus 37 local council development areas, and was able to generate a lot of IGR in this regard. How was he able to do this, and it's still sustainable even up to now, generating the IGR for about 300 million to 70 billion, if my memory has not failed me now?
Well, basically, this is what we're talking about: the capacity to think outside the box, the capacity to, look into the future and see how things can be put right, the capacity to create an environment that will engender good for all. So, if you look at the local government system in Nigeria, over time, Lagos State, I want to believe that the Nigerian state has not done justice to Lagos State. Because we have states that have more, in terms of local government. But Lagos State, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he was a governor of Lagos State, was able to look at this and see into the future that this is what is right and just. And not just that, to bring development to the grassroots. This, over time, this has been justified because we have seen these new LCDs created, being flourished ever since then. And not just that, it's been able to bring coordination to the system and the capability to bring in more resources, which, of course, are shown in the upward movement or trajectory of the revenue of the state.
Page 72, 73, we know that Nigeria has a lot of problem. Not only Nigeria, but other, outside of the country, looking at the Niger junta, the Niger military junta. Very quickly, in less than a minute if you can, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you said, is the ultimate Mr. Fix-It, with an exclamation. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Please speak to that as we wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, it's so simple. The man is a man of excellence. A man who have governed the state of excellence and excel. Everything he does have excellence at the tail ends, and he has been able to achieve that. So basically, that is what I can say, that his reputation, his record, precedes him. So you can be so assured that he's an excellent, he's a troubleshooter like no other.
Okay, so I'm being directed to that there's a lot to talk about with Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But if you want to get his book, very quickly, how do we get it? Is it a free copy? Is it something that we can read online? Very quickly, how do we get it?
Well, basically, we want to, at this point, appreciate the Lagos State government, particularly thank Mr. Governor, His Excellency Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, his deputy, Mr. Hakeem Amzat, and of course, the SA on education.
The SY.
The SY SA on education to the governor, Barrister Tokunbo Wahab, for the contribution they have made, in making this possible, for the endorsement gotten from them. So basically, we have a plan to have this in all the libraries in Nigeria. So we're still working at it. And we hope that more copies will be produced.
It's good that you're able to whet the appetites of Nigerians and the knowledge seekers, in Nigeria. But then we'll say special thanks to you, the authors, two of the authors who are represented here, Funsho Arogundade and Ola Samuelson. And the third person is?
Arinze Alinnorcovers.
Oh,
Arinze Alinnorcovers.
makes sense, makes sense. So we'll say congratulations to you on being able
Thanks
to
so much.
produce this masterpiece of
Thank you.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Thank you so much, gentlemen.